Now, what I noticed generally, the first thing I noticed actually is that he doesn't underline any of his keywords. All right. So the first thing I teach all my students is that they have to underline keywords, because if you don't underline keywords, you are not able to break down the question and focus on the words that are meaningful. Okay. So the very first thing you need to do, Jonas, and I'm very aware of this, a lot of students don't like to do this, but you are sabotaging yourself. You are sabotaging yourself. You have to do it. And the reason for doing that is, first of all, to slow you down so that you do not misread. And secondly, so that you are able to focus on what certain things mean. For example, if you look at this question where you didn't get anything right, right? So let me just quickly show you what I mean by that. So for instance, here, what I would normally teach my students, or actually my students, they all are able to do this on their own. What they will do is, I will ask them, I'll say, okay, can you tell me what is a for? And then they will start by saying, for is her money, right? So they will underline, and they know that the denominator, which is for, is always pointing to the words that come after the word of. All right, this is one of those things that I will teach you if you are my student. And one, and then what is one? What can you tell me, Jonas?
One is how much she spent
On what?
on the handbag.
Right. Okay, so we need to focus on the word handbag, and the reason for this is because this question has got several items, right? Not just spent. Okay, then next, based on what I just said to you about for, pointing to whatever is after the word of, can you tell me what is 5?
The remainder of her money, right?
Read precisely, just tell me what you read. No need to interpret, just tell me what you read. After the word of, what comes after that?
The remainder on
Very
3 identical dresses.
Right. So we say that this is the remainder. Okay, sorry, that's a lag. Okay, so this is the remainder. And if this is the remainder, can you tell me what the 2 is? The 2 on top.
The amount she spent.
On what?
3 dresses.
Okay, 3 dresses. So you can point this to the 3 dresses. Now, this allows you to focus on what you need to do. Okay, this slows you down. It keeps you focused on what you're doing. Now, so this is just an example. I'm not going to go through the whole question. I'm just telling you that this is one of those things that you need to do. Does your teacher teach you this in school?
Yes.
Okay, and she doesn't insist that you guys do keywords?
No, not really.
Okay. So this is one of those things that you must do, because it will help you. And not doing it actually it will affect how you do the question. Okay, first thing. So second thing I noticed about your work is that your presentation, you do not, for example, here you wrote 1/4, 2/5, and then you wrote 5/20. Now, I don't quite understand where you got the 5/24. Are you able to tell me? I don't understand this working here.
I did 1/4 times 2/5.
1/4 times 2/5. Oh, so what you're saying is you're going to take the 1 times 2, and then you're going to take the 4 times the 5. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so why did you do that? I see. You see 2 fractions and then you just multiply them. Okay, so that's not how it works, but I can't go into detail for this because that will be too long. Okay, basically, what I can tell you is that for fractions, if I give you 1/4 and you were to change the denominator into a 20, then whatever you did to change it to a 20, which is times 5, you have to do the same on top. Okay, in mathematics we call this equivalent fractions. Okay, if you were to multiply them by 2 different numbers, you are actually changing its value, which you shouldn't be doing. You understand? Is that clear? Okay, so this is one of those areas that you apparently don't have clarity on. In other words, what you need to do is you need to understand how to break down a fraction into its distinct separate parts, to know what each part means. All right, this is one skill you need to learn. If you do not learn this skill, you will find that you will have a lot of problems, especially in P6, where there are many fractions within a question. Right? You can imagine if this is a P5 question, a P6 question is much harder than this. Okay. The other thing I did notice, which you are good with, is that your foundation is actually not that bad. Now, how do I know that? I see the way you handle this question, which is basically a rate question. Now, this tells me that you don't have problems breaking down the language. You understand? It tells me that you're good with your language, you're fine with it. But the moment we get into fractions, like the one we just talked about, you start having problems. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. So this is one. Yeah, okay. So he does know how to deal with ratios, but he isn't able to convert ratio with if it is more than one single step. So this is something you need to work on, ratio beyond a single step. You understand? Now, yeah, ratio beyond a single step. So in other words, slightly more complex ratio questions. This is one area you have weakness in. And another one is this one. Now, you notice that here it says a cubical container of side 18 cm. Now, very immediately, most students here would simply take 18 times 18 times 18. Why? Because that allows them to find the capacity of the cube. Now, that is not something you did at all. Okay, I'm sure this is your correction, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what this tells me is that you have conceptual problems with regards to the topic of volume. You understand?
Yep.
Yep. So this is another area you will have to work on. So far, we are talking about ratio questions. We are talking about keywords. And another thing that if you were to look at your entire paper, there isn't a single model. Now, this is not a model because this is something that was originally there. Now, can you tell me, does your teacher teach you modeling at all?
Yep.
She does. And generally, does she do modeling for the questions?
Yes.
Yes, huh? So why do you not use them at all? Is there a reason? Are you not comfortable with using it? Are you not?
Yeah, I'm not really comfortable with using models.
And the reason is it because you don't know how to use it? Or do you find it that when you use models, you don't get it right? What is the issue?
Yeah, the modeling makes me kind of confused when I do it.
The model makes you kind of confused when you do it. Okay.
Yeah.
But you are aware that in primary school, at least in Singapore education, we have to use a lot of modeling for many of the questions. It makes the questions come alive. It makes it a lot more obvious how it should be done. All right. You see, I look at this one, right? And I see that you are able to deal with the first two questions. Now, the first two questions are simple questions, right? They're all 1-mark questions. And they're asking you basically to pick up information from the table, which you did correctly, right? You had both correct. But then you got the last part wrong. So you got the last part wrong, and this tells me that you are able, in mathematics, we have three levels. We have knowledge, we have application, and then finally, we have the ability to be flexible with the application, all right? You are at knowledge, generally speaking. In other words, in every topic, you have the basics, you have the so-called understanding, which is why you can answer A and B. But the moment you come to questions like C, and some of the more complicated questions here, let me see, it was a percentage question, like this one, okay? Then you start to struggle.